Chapter 25, 10 Consecutive Wins. That Baek Woo-hyun and Jong Na-yeon ultimately claimed victory in the first game was an all-too-natural result. Since they went around massacring every enemy they met and no one could stop them, victory was practically already decided. However, the surprising point was the kill count racked up in the process. A whopping 32 kills total team kills. It meant the two had killed essentially a third of the game's participants. They'd claimed victory while achieving results rarely seen even in games where high tiers were smurfing on sub-accounts. Additionally, this was also an indicator of how much they'd focused on fighting. Because it was a kill count that couldn't come out without fighting like crazy. To think it was this much times. Standing before the result of overwhelming victory, Jong Na-yeon muttered with a rather flustered expression. Though she'd attempted Lu Bu play believing in Baek Woo-hyun's strength, the air clearly showed she hadn't thought it would go this far. Starting from seems possible, shall we try, passing through a wow, this works, going past just how far does this go, to arriving at times wait, this works too. Anyone would have been the same seeing the scene of leisurely eliminating one team at a time while under three-sided assault beyond merely being cornered. This wasn't a level that could be explained with the simple words strong. Something that couldn't be expressed with just that alone existed in the current Baek Woo-hyun. Frankly speaking, from her perspective, Baek Woo-hyun seemed monstrous beyond pro players. Enough that it couldn't be disparaged as merely a regular game. I think I understand why he was accused of hacking. Perhaps Jong Na-yeon herself might have thought it was a hack if she'd seen Baek Woo-hyun without knowing anything. Of course, she knew from watching right beside him that would absolutely never happen. Because there was none of the unnatural combat style characteristic of hacks. Just hours ago, even Planet Earth Korea's operations manager had come and firmly nailed down that it wasn't a hack before leaving. Who? Wait, hold on. At information that suddenly crossed her mind, Jong Na-yeon's eyes widened. Times. You're on no buffs right now, right? Right, no buffs. But why that expression? Times, why else? I'm shocked that the friend I thought was an ordinary college student is actually a crazy human weapon. No buffs meant, in short, if given the same physical ability in reality, he could show the same divine skill as in the game. Even if physical ability was lacking, thinking of how Baek Woo-hyun fought during combat, it would be threatening all the same. Jong Na-yeon, who'd belatedly realized that fact, felt chills rising along her spine. I'm definitely going to drag him onto broadcasts no matter what. Not simply for her own broadcast to flourish. Jong Na-yeon was even feeling a sense of duty. The duty that she shouldn't know about this kind of monster alone. She thought more people needed to know about the existence called Baek Woo-hyun. Not just viewers, but even the pro industry. Well, that's that. But what's important right now isn't that. Jong Na-yeon looked at Baek Woo-hyun with shining eyes. One more round. Times her. Let's do one more. No, keep going. Until we lose. Getting Baek Woo-hyun onto broadcasts was a secondary issue. Now was the time to fully savor the feeling of acting like a fox exploiting a tiger's might behind the monster called Baek Woo-hyun. Why else would the saying, "What are friends good for," exist? Wouldn't it mean exactly for times like this to become the best bus passenger and benefit from a best bus driver friend? It's so regrettable we can't do ranked games. Unfortunately, as soon as the new season started, Jong Na-yeon had not only taken placement matches but had also enjoyed many games afterward, currently having climbed to Diamond tier. This was a reasonably high rank, fourth from the top among Reverse Planet's PvP tiers that rose in order of Bronze, Silver, Gold, Platinum, Diamond, Master, Grand Master, Challenger. No, since the highest tier Challenger was actually a ranking with a 1,000-person limit, strictly speaking it was no different from third. Meaning she was considerably skilled among amateurs. The problem started right from there. Reverse Planet's PvP had a restriction preventing playing ranked together if too much tier difference existed, and she'd gotten caught in this restriction because she'd achieved Diamond tier first. Because of that, she had Diamond tier and Baek Woo-hyun at unranked tier who hadn't even taken placement matches yet couldn't play ranked games together. At least not until Baek Woo-hyun reached Platinum rank. We can do it together later, right? However, unlike Jong Na-yeon who wanted to start the next game right away, Baek Woo-hyun's reaction was quite indifferent. He was merely scratching his cheek with an expression showing no motivation. The reason was simple. Having played once, he'd lost interest in PvP content. Though he'd been interested because it was content that didn't exist in that other world, he'd ultimately realized it was no different from experiments the research facility occasionally conducted. Unless there were more elements worth investigating separately, which there weren't. So he'd thought about refusing but soon changed his mind. If I think of it as adaptation training, it's not impossible. As a method of fitting himself to reality, enjoying games with a friend who would be reasonably appropriate. Additionally, he needed to kill the excessively sharpened senses since encountering Reverse Planet. Baek Woo-hyun lightly nodded. Okay. Fine. Let's keep going. Okay. Then I'll grab the next match right away. Successfully matched to PvP, Survivals Mode game. Please select starting point. Times. Game has ended. Game mode, Survival, Duo. Final result, first and 50th place. Baek Woo-hyun, 30k in 9A 0D. Jong Naeon, 11k 26A 1D. The next game that immediately followed. The result was victory, needless to say. Not only Baek Woo-hyun but Jong Naeon, who'd grown accustomed to him, also rampaged more than before while sweeping up kills, and they exploded the game as is. With a whopping 41 total team kills, nearly half, one could guess how crazily they rampaged. If there was one flaw, it was that Jong Naeon got killed once by enemies in the middle of the game. However, it didn't have much impact on the game result. Because Baek Woo-hyun quickly found a transporter and revived Jong Naeon, it was treated as just an accidental incident. Phew, alright, keep going. Won't stop. Right now I'm an 8-ton truck with a broken steering wheel. Okay. Third game also 37 kills victory. Fourth game also 27 kills victory. And the continuing fifth game also 31 kills victory. Victory. Baek Woo-hyun and Jong Naeon won all 10 consecutive games they played. Moreover, recording at least 20 kills or more in every single game. Even the game with the fewest kills among the 10 was 24 kills, a bit short of a quarter of total participants. It was no exaggeration to say they'd overwhelmingly claimed victory every single game. So a 10-win streak was really possible times. Even after that, the twos' rush didn't stop. Despite MMR, matchmaking rating, sharply rising due to repeated victories and insane kill scores, and participant levels rising accordingly. No matter how high the level rose, ultimately ordinary players in regular games couldn't possibly stop them. Having continued games through the deep night until late dawn, they succeeded in engraving dozens of victory records on their match history. Even that was only because Jong Naeon had to go due to an appointment in the next day's afternoon, accurately this day's afternoon, but anyway, so they forcibly stopped, not because they failed to win. If it hadn't been for the schedule, they might have really played games literally until losing. Then they probably would have stayed up all night at high probability. Ah. Really, if it wasn't for the appointment? We can do it again later. I'm fine anytime when I have time. Times, that's true, but times. Seeing Baek Woo-hyun calmly consoling her, Jong Naeon tilted her head. It had been like this since they met to eat dinner a while ago, but she'd once again felt he'd really changed greatly somehow. If it were the Baek Woo-hyun she knew, a completely different reaction would have come back. He would have said something like, cancel the appointment if you're frustrated, or was the bus ride sweet? Yet such a mild reaction. It was like he'd suddenly become much kinder as a person. There's really nothing wrong, right? After pondering briefly, Jong Naeon soon smacked her lips. She knew very well that prying into everything at times like this brought nothing good. Because if it were truly a story she needed to know, Baek Woo-hyun would have told her first. Anyway, let's stop here for today. Okay. Good work. Oh yeah. You worked hard too. Ah, right. Jong Naeon, who'd given a farewell greeting, turned to look at Baek Woo-hyun as if suddenly remembering. Could you possibly wait about 2 days without pushing main missions? I'll bring a proper broadcast proposal within that time. I can wait about 2 days. Baek Woo-hyun, who was answering, went and crossed his arms. He'd thought she'd give up when he attached the condition of a broadcast where he didn't need to look at chat, didn't need to talk, and just needed to play the game, but Jong Naeon seemed to have no such intention. So he decided to speak more bluntly. I'm saying again, I have no intention of broadcasting. Even if you, Neon, bring a proposal meeting all the conditions I mentioned, I'll only think about it at most, and the probability of not doing it is higher. That's fine. Because I'll persuade you. At Jong Naeun's infinite positive energy, Baek Woo-hyun bobbed his head reluctantly. Because there wasn't much more to say when she insisted she'd persuade him. Anyway, I'm going. See you later. The grinning Jong Naeun's figure gradually faded, leaving behind only one word to look forward to it. Times. After Jong Naeun ended the game that way, expression disappeared from the face of Baek Woo-hyun, left alone. As if the faint smiles occasionally shown while together with Jong Naeun were merely manufactured smiles. Having become an expressionless face, even bleak, he quietly looked up at the sky. For quite a while, continuously. Asterisk. Ahee. On a bed neatly laid with pink blankets, Kang Soil in pajamas let out a stupid laugh while flailing her feet. It was struggling that oozed with joy she absolutely couldn't contain. Though it was a sight that seemed not quite sane at a glance, she didn't care at all. Because she was alone in her room anyway, and any personal broadcaster would have shown the same reaction as herself in the current situation. What personal broadcaster could be calm when their broadcast content was being mentioned across all of HyperNet and recognition was rising in real time? Jackpot. As Jong Naeun said, jackpot, no, super jackpot. Looking at posts about her broadcast that had climbed to the top of hot topic boards in all Reverse Planet-related communities, she couldn't help but think so. Not music chart all kills, but community hot topic post all kills. What kind of personal broadcaster had ever enjoyed such glory? In a situation where even reasonably major corporation personal broadcasters weren't mentioned in places other than broadcast communities unless they caused some big incident. Moreover, the terrifying point was that not even a full day had passed since the broadcast ended. There were still plenty who would continue chewing, tearing, tasting, and enjoying this topic while widely spreading the names of Kang Soil and Baek Woo-hyun. The reason she, who didn't usually look at communities closely, had been staring at her smartphone for hours was exactly that. Because every time she changed the community she was checking, stories about her broadcast were newly discovered one by one, so she couldn't put it down at all. As expected, befitting the world's national game, the ripple effect itself is on another level. Kang Soil thought the biggest reason this broadcast became a huge hit was because the game serving as background was Reverse Planet. What if a similar controversy had erupted in the hipster pick games she usually enjoyed? She'd guarantee that even using means more extreme than summoning the operator, it wouldn't have been mentioned anywhere, not even in communities. It would have been quietly buried in indifference. But indeed, Reverse Planet, which was not only popular worldwide but also called the national game in Korea, was greatly different. Even casually floating a rumor had people overflowing with curiosity about what was happening, and naturally stories spread to all kinds of communities. Of course, even so, if the controversy itself hadn't been noteworthy, the situation of becoming tremendously topical like now wouldn't have occurred, but times. Not something else but a hack controversy summoning the operator, there's no way it'd be buried. How could one not be interested when a scene of surprisingly using hacks appeared on a personal broadcast, something normal gamers couldn't help but detest? Moreover, it didn't simply end there. A personal broadcaster summoned an operator, moreover the Team 1 operations manager directly, to clarify the hack controversy? Even without interest in Reverse Planet, wouldn't wanting to watch at least this much be universal psychology? The conclusion is perfect too. Chapter 26, Buzz. Having drawn in the dragon's eyes, Hueri Jiang, by thoroughly thrashing those who had mindlessly claimed hacks before the counterattack of the operator's statement, such a reaction was inevitable. Additionally, the fact that during the verification process, Baek Woo-hyun fought without being pushed back at all against advanced combat training bots with just a single core element contributed to this incident dominating the community. Kang Soil, who had only played Reverse Planet twice, one of which was for the clarification broadcast, only learned this fact after belatedly seeing trending posts, but it was truly absurd. Reverse Planet Gallery. Oh, right. Surprising, but that's true. 351. Making a fuss about advanced combat bots, 782. Upvote if you think Hack Physical must go pro, 999 plus. Reality check hitting really hard right now, fuck, 526. What are they even saying? 741. You could tell just from looking at the featured posts of the Reverse Planet Gallery, a community called one of the Twin Peaks along with Reverse Time. Because the featured post list, which would usually be cluttered with all kinds of stories, was filled only with stories related to Hack Physical, Beck Woohian's combat power. It meant that the combat power he showed during verification was that shocking even to them. What are they even saying? Picture roughly discussing how to construct a build to beat advanced training bots. He beats them head on with just one core element. What build bullshit? The whole you need to construct a build well to fight advanced training bots is all bullshit. Someone only needs one core element, Didn't you think Hack Physical is crazy? Thumbs up dumpling emoticon. Then you try fighting an advanced bot yourself. Obviously they'll get beaten up and come back crying. Scraped? To the extent that even denigration of supernatural ability builds themselves was occurring. Of course, there probably weren't many who truly thought that way. The importance of builds had been discussed continuously from the past until now. There wasn't a reason professional leagues had builders who specialized only in carving builds. If builds truly had no value, there wouldn't have been that kind of investment. It just meant Beck Woohian's combat was shocking enough for such talk to emerge. In fact, after the broadcast, many builders stepped forward to research perfect being. Not just amateurs, but even pros. Though there was a question mark on whether they could produce proper results. Reality check hitting really hard right now. Saw Hack Physical's video and felt like that's talent, hit the wall. Never thought like this even when seeing pros during trainee life. His real talent though. Is he that much? What reality check from an amateur? Not even a pro. You're just trash, so give up. Dishwasher getting reality check. Upvote if you think Hack Physical must go pro. Starting with me. Upvote. Upvote. Pepper. Upvote. Upvote baiting is annoying but still upvote. There were also those who focused on Beck Woohian's physicality itself. Because no matter how overpowered the core element was, ultimately what mattered was the user's skill. Bluntly speaking, even if given a different core element instead of perfect being, he seemed like he would have shown a monster-like appearance. Making a fuss about advanced combat bots. Picture of green frog crying sadly. I reflect on thinking that advanced combat bots are really fucking strong. Went with one core element and got my soul taken. Yo, you too. After trying I realized Hack Physical is just a monster. This seems impossible even for pros. Pros weak at 1v1 absolutely can't do it. Really don't know how he did it. I understand the featured post person's feelings getting reality checked. Oh, right. Surprising but that's true. Hack Physical smiling with only one corner of his mouth raised under a mask.jpg. Bro just played a game but got accused of hacking. Likely warmed up and they're like hack this hack that. Watching the verification, it was absurd. I think it's absurd that even something like this becomes controversial. Something like this. Hack Physical would really be bewildered. Why are they saying hack? I just played? Featured post tour ends here. Kang Soil, who had been smiling broadly while looking at featured posts, tapped her smartphone. Naturally, she wasn't trying to go to sleep. Because what took the place of the disappeared Reverse Planet Gallery page was the Reverse Time page. Wonder if any new posts went up on Retime. Oh, a new post. Kang Soil entered today's trending board like a hyena targeting prey. A fresh new post happened to catch her eye. Delighted, she moved her finger. General, grinning current status of mindless hack parrots. Comments, 999 plus views, 5741 for recommendations, 4510. List of posts cursing Hack Physical as a hacker.jpg. Screenshot showing no posts found when searched again.jpg. Comments cursing Hack Physical as a hacker.jpg. Comment window showing deleted comments.jpg. Before-after screenshot of suddenly changing attitude after cursing.jpg. After urgently deleting their posts and comments, executing I never believed it tilde. Yep tilde already screenshot tilde. That's why you shouldn't play along with agitation without shifting to neutral gear. What? So good it's hacking? Lol so good. Hack. All comments, registration order latest order refresh. Seriously if you don't know, shut your mouth or open Notepad. Why act out when you don't know tilde? I was right to keep my mouth shut because I dunno. Just gotta watch before fact checking. Thinking about it now it's really funny hacking because too good. Wow, that attitude switch is legendary. Pathetic fuck if you're gonna do that, either don't write posts at all. Why on earth are they like that? They just wanna curse whether hacker or hack parrot. When talking about evidence they brought an Astra video, so funny really. Same as the hacker in the Astra video _a hacker _. Personal opinion, honestly they are similar, absolutely not saying hack. Just similar that. Similar is. That's why it's hack physical. Spamming the broadcast was disgusting. That side prepared even an operator's statement but hack parrots just mindlessly spammed. They cursed so much, can't they all be sued? Hope hack physical and the broadcaster didn't care unnecessarily. My view account shot up so it was actually good. You hee hee hee. As you could tell from her continuously showing a foolish smile, Kang Soil didn't care at all about being cursed on the broadcast. Rather, she was delighted. Because thanks to them desperately coming to curse, she'd been able to greatly renew her broadcast's highest view account record. According to what she checked after the broadcast ended, at the peak she'd maintained a view account exceeding a whopping 100,000 for several minutes. This was the highest view account on Tricky, the platform she was broadcasting on at the time. Meaning she'd briefly hit #1 view account on Tricky. Even if just 1/10 comeback, that's 10,000, well, that's just my wishful thinking, and not even 1/100th will come back. Still, the fact that it would greatly help increase view account was certain. Considering her usual fixed view account watching her broadcasts was 2,000 to 3,000, even an increase of 1,000 would be a tremendous growth rate. It literally meant becoming 1.5 times her weight class. New posts keep going up. Good tilde? General, story of meeting hack physical in PvP, video included. Comments, 317 views, 2741 for recommendations, 1117. First person player PvP.avi. At first I was like no way seeing hack physical's name on the kill log, but it was real. The kill log kept rising endlessly. Just what I saw while alive was over 20. Luckily survived to late game, then got killed without even seeing his face. Fuck. Upset about getting wrecked, so I pulled the video. After actually meeting him I understand why he got accused of hacking. All comments, registration order, latest order refresh. When did he come and kill you? Didn't even notice. Seems like he approached from behind, no sound either. Because killed with a knife, it's really like assassination. Why is hack physical doing assassin roleplay in survival mode? Kill log really rises non-stop. I counted and it's 23 kills including the poster. 6 people left when poster died, so if he won it would have been 27 kill victory. Why 27 kills? It's 29 kills, can't calculate. Hack physical plus duo, so gotta subtract 2, you blockhead friend. Security guard breakthrough attempt 245th try. Isn't it about time to give up at that point? Security guard breakthrough attempt 246th try. Security guard breakthrough attempt 247th try. Security guard breakthrough attempt 248th try. I was wrong, sorry. Checked match history and he got 27 kill victory then. Wow, match history, fuck, it's no joke. How many wins in a row is he doing? Even all 20 plus kills. Not hack physical for nothing. Not hack physical for nothing tilde? Kang Soil muttered with a grin. Though there were more stories about hack physical Baek Woo-hyun than her in the community, that didn't disappoint her. Rather, it even made her feel a kind of pride. It was fulfillment coming from the talent she discovered shining and enchanting countless people. Would have been nice if we could keep broadcasting together. Deep regret appeared on Kang Soil's face as she put down her smartphone. For a while the aftermath of the clarification broadcast would dominate the entire community, and she felt regret at not being able to continue broadcasting, riding the momentum. If done well, it would have been an opportunity to grow the broadcast tremendously. At worst, it would at least break even. Moreover, it wasn't a bad story for Baek Woo-hyun either. Her broadcast growing meant increased revenue, and she was willing to gladly give the increased revenue to Baek Woo-hyun. Meaning she had the will to cut off and give away revenue generated like this time, not just pay some guest fee. It would surely have been a considerable amount. If Woo-hyun refuses, there's nothing I can do though. It wouldn't be easy to persuade Baek Woo-hyun, who tried to refuse, saying it was unnecessary even to settle revenue immediately. Kang Soil, who sighed, copied the link to the post she was looking at. Because she'd been looking for appropriate conversation material, and this seemed quite good. After touching her smartphone to turn off the HyperNet screen, what she turned on next was the KakaoTalk Messenger. Kang Soil, hello, Woo Hyun. I discovered an interesting post this time, so I'm contacting you. Kang Soil, link, story of meeting hack physical in PvP, video included. Kang Soil, it's a post and video someone who met you during PvP uploaded, and it's becoming quite a topic. Perhaps he could use KakaoTalk, because the response came back almost immediately. Baek Woo Hyun, I see. Though it was a brief answer that made her long message meaningless, even showing signs of responding roughly, Kang Soil still felt satisfaction. At any rate, he didn't ignore it. She grinned and tapped the touch keyboard. Kang Soil, right now the community is all noisy with stories related to you. Kang Soil, I'll send more if I find interesting stories. Baek Woo Hyun, yes, understood. Good. Build rapport steadily like this, then drag him onto the broadcast. Don't obsess over current matters, take the long view. Having made that plan, Kang Soil decided to advance calmly step by step. To do that, first settling things cleanly would look good, right? Who? Kang Soil's eyes suddenly widened as she entered the tricky platform's settlement details to check the related amount. Because she'd intended to settle everything at once after the clarification broadcast, so hadn't checked until now, but belatedly checking revealed an amount far larger than she'd expected. And moreover, it wasn't simply tens of thousands of won higher, but hundreds of thousands of won higher. What on earth happened? Kang Soil, who checked the donation list to satisfy her curiosity, was even more surprised. Anonymous Viewer 62 donated 1 million won. Anonymous Viewer 62 donated 1 million won. Anonymous Viewer 62 donated 1 million won. One person donated 3 million won. Since most of the increased amount was a donation from just one person, naturally it was shocking beyond just surprising. Moreover, the absurd fact was that Anonymous Viewer 62's donations were made after all broadcasts ended. It was a choice that clearly revealed the donations had nothing to do with her broadcast from the start. And this applied to the donation message content as well. Meet again in reality? Special mission? What on earth is this about? Kang Soil, who saw the message that came with the 1,000,001 donations, tilted her head. It seemed like something related to Reverse Planet, but she couldn't know what the content was because her play time was short. After briefly pondering this, she soon gave up thinking. Since it seemed like content meant for Baek Woo Hyun anyway, or just a rich concept player, she figured she'd just deliver it as is. And moreover, maybe if he learned someone donated as much as 3 million won, Woo Hyun's thoughts might change. Additionally, there was a very small desire too. Chapter 27, Presentation. Who? As if expelling the heat filling his body, Baek Woo Hyun exhaled lengthily. Even though his body, overworked to its limit, continuously screamed, he didn't care at all. Because he was someone who had calmly endured even worse pain over there. Having endured even with arms severed and organs burst, there was no way he'd whine over just intense exercise. Physical pain was nothing. It was merely a trivial obstacle that could be overcome with willpower. What truly broke people down was mental pain. This isn't where you should be. Shut up. Baek Woo Hyun coldly snapped at the muttering heard from one corner of his mind. Perhaps because he'd experienced over there through Reverse Planet, he felt displeased that the voice, which had been quiet for a while, was starting to be heard again. It was he himself who decided where to be. Not some hallucination heard in his head. Soup. Baek Woo Hyun, who calmly steadied his breathing, slowly sat as if pushing his hips back, then stood up. Several times, not minding the heavy barbell placed on his trapezius. He finished what's called a high bar squat only after completing all the predetermined repetitions. He'd forcibly met the entire goal while dripping sweat like rain. Kyo-kyung. Who? Baek Woo Hyun, who placed the barbell on the power rack, exhaled lengthily again. Considerable fatigue was felt on his face. Well, it was natural since he was training while mentally suppressing the weak body of a college student who'd never properly exercised. Because even if he could grit his teeth and swallow the pain felt during exercise, he couldn't do the same with the fatigue accumulating in his body. When will I be able to train to a usable level? He wanted to train to over there a level if he could, but Baek Woo Hyun knew very well that was impossible. First of all, he didn't have the most important core element, perfect being, and this side's body had far less potential than that side's body. Even that was only at an insufficient level thanks to not usually enjoying alcohol and cigarettes, otherwise, comparison would have been impossible. Therefore, he planned to be satisfied with a body that moved reasonably as intended. Though even that was still a story from the distant future for now. Anyway, I'll just have to do it steadily. Baek Woo-hyun separated the plates from the barbell and returned them to their original places. Having met his planned goal with the set he just did, he intended to finish exercising now. Because he knew that doing more unnecessarily would only ruin his body. The saying excess is as bad as deficiency wasn't for nothing. Who? Let's go slowly, surely. After neatly cleaning up, Baek Woo-hyun washed off sweat in the shower room attached to the gym. There was fatigue, but more than that, he felt refreshed. Like the morning after playing Reverse Planet for the first time. After even finishing his shower, he hesitated when taking out items from his personal locker when he picked up his smartphone last. Because a notification appeared on the smartphone screen announcing a new Cocoa Talk message had arrived. A quick check showed it was a message sent by Jong Naeon. Jong Naeon, come to my waiting room at 8 p.m. today. A message with only time and place written bare. There was no other explanation, but Baek Woo-hyun knew why Jong Naeon sent such a message. Because since playing PvP together 2 days ago, she'd continuously talked about how the broadcast composition was going well. With slight exaggeration, she talked almost once an hour, so it was impossible not to know. Surely she wanted to talk about the broadcast. I don't particularly want to broadcast, but anyway I should listen. Baek Woo-hyun, okay. Baek Woo-hyun, who sent back a brief answer, shoved his smartphone in his pocket. What broadcast had Jong Naeon prepared? Feeling very faint curiosity, he slowly moved his steps. Asterisk. What's this? When the appointed time came and Baek Woo-hyun entered Jong Naeon's waiting space, the first words he uttered were none other than these. Since he knew the waiting space she usually decorated filled with her tastes, he was flustered when a completely different scene unfolded from what he thought. Moreover, it looked like some major corporation's product presentation, making it even more so. Welcome to my waiting space, stranger. Jong Naeon, standing beside the hologram for PPT on stage, cracked a joke only she knew. Naturally, Baek Woo-hyun's reaction was merely lukewarm. Then she went hum and coughed several times, completely changed her expression, and greeted you came. What's that? What else? It's a PPT I personally prepared to persuade you. How is it, doesn't even the first screen look pretty? The PPT Jong Naeon prepared had a rainbow-colored background with the words "A broadcast content explanation" written in rainbow color. A bright blue seal picture was a bonus. Rainbow-colored background with rainbow-colored letters, a combination that made one frown automatically. He clicked his tongue briefly. Following her guidance, Baek Woo-hyun sat in the only chair. He thought, if you're doing this, why make such a wide space? Now, I'll begin the presentation. Clap, clap, clap. The sound of Jong Naeon clapping alone echoed hollowly in the waiting space. Since it was a space as large as a decent auditorium, the clapping that felt even more futile continued lengthily. Very long and persistently. Clap, clap, clap. Since it seemed like she'd keep clapping until he responded, Baek Woo-hyun shook his head and clapped with a reluctant attitude. Only then did Jong Naeon nod satisfactorily and begin talking. If you broadcast, Woo-hyun. What you requested was a broadcast where you just silently do your work without worrying about the chat window or donations, right? That's right. Baek Woo-hyun smiled bitterly watching Jong Naeon, who after changing locations and setting up all this atmosphere, ultimately returned to talking as usual. The thought passed through his mind, if this was how it'd be, why change the waiting space and prepare even a PPT, though the quality was quite low. He didn't particularly express that thought out loud since he didn't know what fit she might have. In other words, you want a broadcast where you don't worry about viewers, but actually that doesn't make sense for personal broadcasts. Immediate communication with viewers was the alpha and omega of personal broadcasts. Therefore, not wanting to do that at all was essentially the same as not wanting to do personal broadcasts. If it weren't what Baek Woo-hyun had said, Jong Naeon would have thought it was an indirect refusal. But what if it's not a personal broadcast? Jong Naeon moved the PPT to the next page. There appeared photos of TV variety programs like I Live Alone, Omniscient Meddling View, and My Ugly Duckling, together with the persistent Bono Bono and rainbow-colored background. Baek Woo-hyun's eyes widened slightly as he watched, wondering what she was trying to say. Because he realized the common point of the variety shows appearing in the PPT. Looks like you caught on? Right. It's observational variety. Observational variety. It was a variety program format called reality show in the West. It proceeded with various cast members watching recorded videos of other cast members on screens in a studio, and was also a format steadily loved in Korean variety for a long time. Though it was criticized for being loved too much, with most variety shows all becoming observational variety format, but what mattered now wasn't that. With observational variety, you don't need to communicate with viewers, Woo-hyun. Because I'll do that separately from the studio watching you. Me for gaming. You for communication. Exactly that. Certainly, if as Jong Na-yeon explained, it was exactly the broadcast format Baek Woo-hyun wanted. Because he didn't need to worry about chats and donations, in other words, viewers didn't need to talk himself, and just had to do his work. It would be Jong Na-yeon watching from the studio who'd use that for broadcasting. Sounds plausible. Right. It certainly makes sense, but does this work? It works, which is why it's the mainstream variety format these days too. Indeed, so Baek Woo-hyun nodded. If observational variety was bad, it wouldn't have established itself as the mainstream variety format regardless of East or West. Jong Na-yeon's words had considerable persuasiveness. Plus it exists on the personal broadcast side too. In spectator room format. Usually rooms broadcasting pros doing ranked games. That's somewhat interesting. And well, at most it'll just fail, right? Certainly that too. Anyway, failing would just be break even, wouldn't it? Since it wasn't a challenge attempted while spending money separately and proceeded concurrently while gaming, there was nothing to lose. I'm thinking of pulling in a few other people. I'll pick from personal broadcasters whose main content is Reverse Planet. Is there a need to do that? It's fine if I proceed alone. I even planned it that way at first. Jong Na-yeon shrugged and continued. But more than that, bringing other people, for example, yes. Like bringing someone famous for combat analysis among Reverse Planet personal broadcasters seems better. Is that so? Yeah. In terms of securing diversity of viewing perspectives, and it can prevent viewers from getting tired of the same reactions. That's why TV observational varieties have multiple panel cast members too. Baek Woo-hyun crossed his arms and fell into thought. Just listening to what had been said so far, Jong Na-yeon's proposal precisely complied with his requirements. To the extent that it was surprising she found a solution that fit this perfectly. How about it? This much? My proposal. Will you accept it? Well. Why? At Baek Woo-hyun's firm refusal, Jong Na-yeon hastily jumped down from the platform and stood before him. It was a look watching for angles to cling as always if need be. Knowing that, Baek Woo-hyun subtly extended his hand to restrain her and continued speaking. I clearly said I'd think about it, not that I'd unconditionally accept. But this has all the conditions you wanted. It certainly does. Excluding that bizarre PPT, it was undeniable that Jong Na-yeon's preparation was certainly good. But that wasn't necessarily a reason he had to accept the proposal. Still, seeing the sincerity she'd prepared hard, Baek Woo-hyun tried to weigh the gains obtainable through broadcasting and the losses incurred from it. If only Jong Na-yeon, who couldn't wait for that, hadn't clung to him. We'll split revenue 50-50. It really earns tremendously more than you think. Then. 60-40. Considering iTube operating costs, this is the Maginot line, really. iTube. Right. I was going to tell you this too. Look at this. Jong Na-yeon gestured sharply toward the PPT. Then the rainbow-colored screen that made one frown just looking at it disappeared, and instead her apparent iTube appeared in its place. There was an uploaded video of playing PvP together with Baek Woo-hyun after the last clarification broadcast, and surprisingly, the view count had already exceeded 300,000. Considering the fact that her iTube subscribers were merely around 10,000, it was truly tremendous views. See the video view count? It's currently blowing up, riding the algorithm. It'll go higher if I start broadcasting here and subtly spread information on communities a few times. Jong Na-yeon, who expressed confidence that such viral marketing would be easy as pie if she, a current community spectre, stepped forward, continued speaking. At worst, pocket money is possible. If it goes well, we can really earn tremendously, you know? You just played a game and earned money. How nice is that? Wait. Baek Woo-hyun, who restrained Jong Na-yeon with a rigidly hardened expression, stared piercingly at the hologram screen. Precisely, at a comment barely visible hanging at the bottom of the YouTube video. His gaze sank coldly as he spoke. Show me that comment. Who? Just a moment. Chapter 28, Anonymous Viewer 62. Comments. Popular order, latest order? At Anonymous Viewer 62 times 12 hours ago. How does it feel to return to reality? Recommendations 0 against 0 reply. This is. If someone other than Baek Woo-hyun had seen this comment, they would have thought what nonsense. But for Baek Woo-hyun, who had actually spent 10 years over there and recently returned to reality, it was absolutely not content that could be passed off as idle talk. Even the nickname Anonymous Viewer 62 subtly hinted at him, who had been test subject number 62 when over there, didn't it? It's certain. Anonymous Viewer 62 was definitely related to over there. This was a clear truth that couldn't be dismissed as simple delusion or overreaction. Because from the nickname to the comment content, everything was related to over there, and all of those things couldn't all be coincidence. The fact that the other party left comments only on videos featuring Baek Woo-hyun among the numerous videos on Jong Naeun's YouTube also added certainty to his speculation. Who exactly was Anonymous Viewer 62? Why did they comment here? What were they approaching for? Countless questions filled Baek Woo-hyun's mind. And the biggest question among them was this. What is their relationship with over there? Were they a returnee like himself? Or some other kind of relationship? Right now the only certainty was that Anonymous Viewer 62 knew that Baek Woo-hyun had returned from over there, making it even more puzzling. If they were a fellow returnee, there wouldn't be much problem, but if not. If they weren't someone who returned from over there, but someone who sends peoples over there. What's wrong? Is there some weird comment? Should I delete it? No, don't delete it. You mustn't. Baek Woo-hyun answered Jong Naeun, who asked while glancing at him, with a rigidly hardened expression. It was a resolute tone enough to make her unconsciously shrink back and nod. Moreover, he even earnestly requested her to absolutely inform him if Anonymous Viewer 62 left a new comment. Without caring even about the fact that this would seem strange. It was an expression of will not to miss an existence that could be a connection to over there, even if it meant receiving an uncomfortable gaze from Jong Naeun. Should I approach first? Since they left a comment, if I also attempt communication with a comment from this side. Why is this person suddenly like this? Silence flowed between the two for a moment. Baek Woo-hyun was busy pondering about Anonymous Viewer 62, and Jong Naeun kept her mouth shut, flustered by his sudden behavior. However, such silence didn't last very long. Because soon Jong Naeun rebelled, thinking, why should I be quiet, and opened her mouth. She decided to pass over what he'd talked about regarding the comment, thinking there must be some circumstance, then continue the persuasion from earlier. Anyway, what's important here is that revenue is generated just from gaming. You even registered at a gym, didn't you? You're tight on money. Looks like you can't grasp how big an amount broadcast revenue is, Come to think of it, didn't that Kang Soil person say she'd settle broadcast revenue for you? Right. She said she'd settle revenue for the first broadcast and clarification broadcast, 2 broadcasts worth. Did you check how much came out? Haven't looked yet. I came right after exercising. Then check right now. I guarantee it, if you see that, even you'll change your mind. Now. When Jong Naeun urged him, incessantly chattering, Baek Woo-hyun shook his head and turned on the hypernet. It was to check the settlement details Kang Soil sent, as she wished. Anyway, even if he deeply contemplated Anonymous Viewer 62 right now, there was nothing he could separately do. Of course, later when alone, he'd have to think about it again though. However, when checking the settlement email content Kang Soil sent, Baek Woo-hyun's expression couldn't help but harden rigidly. Because there too existed mention about Anonymous Viewer 62. Moreover, with even more explicit content than the YouTube comment. According to Kang Soil's email, Anonymous Viewer 62 had donated 1 million won each across 3 times, and the messages contained within were as follows. Hello, Woo-hyun. It's nice to meet you again like this even in reality. Currently, a new special mission is prepared for you. From now on, I will see you when you are broadcasting. To think they'd appear even in personal broadcast donations following the YouTube comment, though time-wise the order would probably be reversed. Moreover, the content conveyed through donation messages was much more explicit than the comment. Met again even in reality, a new special mission is prepared? Anonymous Viewer 62 was outright saying they knew him from over there. And one more thing knowable through this was, they're not a returnee like me. The fact that Anonymous Viewer 62 wasn't someone who fell over there and returned like Baek Woo-hyun. He'd never once met someone who wanted to return to reality like himself over there. Therefore, meeting again didn't make sense. Adding to that, the story about a new special mission being prepared for him drove the final nail into speculation about Anonymous Viewer 62. Because the existence that gave him special missions over there wasn't something that could be called human. It's the system's side. Baek Woo-hyun's eyes sank heavily. The system was a very bizarre counterpart to him. Though not certain, it was the existence that sent him over there, and simultaneously the existence that helped him survive over there. It was also the existence that sent him back to reality after solving all the special missions it gave. He just hadn't expressed any particular emotion separately because it was an existence he couldn't communicate with. No one gets angry at a wall, right? The system over there had no personable something. In other words, it was close to some law-sword framework. Seeing Anonymous Viewer 62, it seemed that thought was apparently wrong. What the new special mission and saying they'll visit through broadcasts means. In deeply submerged consciousness, Baek Woo-hyun thought. First, it's definite that Anonymous Viewer 62 is on the system's side. Otherwise there wouldn't have been talk of meeting again or mentioning special missions. However, it seemed they couldn't display the system before his eyes in reality like over there. If that were truly possible, they would have done so yesterday evening. Instead of leaving donation messages or iTube comments troublesomely like now. What? How much came out to be like that? When Baek Woo-hyun kept his mouth shut, Jong Naeon subtly clung beside him and tried to check the email content he saw. Since the only existence who could understand what Anonymous Viewer 62 said was only Baek Woo-hyun himself anyway, he disclosed the email content to her. The content that Kang Soil would settle millions of won, though 3 million of that was from Anonymous Viewer 62, as his share. Wow, this much for the first settlement. You only appeared on broadcasts twice though. Jong Naeon, who checked the amount, shouted in surprise. Because even she hadn't quite anticipated that hundreds of thousands of won would come out for just Baek Woo-hyun's share alone, though she thought it would be a considerable amount. It was even more surprising since Baek Woo-hyun had only appeared on broadcasts twice. Strictly speaking, it was practically earning close to 300,000 or 400,000 won per broadcast. Really no joke. Is this the prestige of a major corporation? A clear smile soon was carved on Jong Naeon's lips as she unconsciously clicked her tongue. It was a smile as if bragging the sea. Look! The settlement amount is insane. Of course we can't earn that much at once, but if done well, we can receive millions of won per broadcast. Apparently Jong Naeon thought Baek Woo-hyun had frozen from being surprised seeing the amount. Of course, his reaction was ultimately because of Anonymous Viewer 62, but it would look that way to her who didn't know what the donation message content meant. Instead of correcting her misunderstanding, Baek Woo-hyun looked at her and spoke briefly. Fine. Let's do it. Think of it as doing this instead of a part-time job. What? You'll do it? Really? Yeah. Kia. I knew it. No taking back your words. However, there's a condition. At the words that there was a condition, Jong Naeon, who was about to jump for joy, stopped abruptly. Because she got the feeling that looking at Baek Woo-hyun's expression, he was trying to say a very important condition. She gulped dry saliva and asked. What is it? If donations come under the ID Anonymous Viewer 62, or comments are left on iTube videos, absolutely inform me. Regardless of any situation, absolutely. Absolutely regardless of the situation? Absolutely. Whether I'm sleeping, gaming, whatever I'm doing, don't worry about it and tell me. That's all. That's all. When Baek Woo-hyun nodded, Jong Naeon went futility and let out a sigh of relief. Because she thought some tremendous demand would come out with how much he'd set the atmosphere, but since specially managing just one viewer was hardly difficult. And actually, even without Baek Woo-hyun's earnest request, Anonymous Viewer 62 was someone she should have managed proactively from her side. Because they were a big spender who donated as much as 3 million won, 1 million won at a time across 3 times. Got it. That much is easy. Jong Naeon didn't bother asking what relationship Anonymous Viewer 62 had with Baek Woo-hyun, but just readily nodded. Not because she worried Baek Woo-hyun's mind would change if she asked unnecessarily complicatedly. Though it would be a lie if such reason didn't exist at all, it was more because the belief was greater that if it were content that truly needed knowing, he would step forward and inform her first. Because that degree of trust had accumulated from spending a fairly long time as friends. Originally, Baek Woo-hyun had no intention of jumping into personal broadcasting, though he planned to play Reverse Planet to find out what relationship existed with over there. Because even at Jong Na-eun's persuasion, he tried to decide after weighing the gains obtainable through broadcasting and the losses incurred from it. Even that would have highly probably chosen refusal in the end. But not anymore. They said they'd come when broadcasting. Anonymous Viewer 62 mentioned they'd come when Baek Woo-hyun was broadcasting. Though they shamelessly left a comment on Jong Na-eun's iTube video too, anyway the subsequent promise was set at the broadcast. So he was in a position where he had no choice but to broadcast regardless of will. To not miss the connection that was barely established. Over there and Reverse Planet, Planet Earth. And now even Anonymous Viewer 62. Baek Woo-hyun realized nothing had ended yet. Also the fact that nothing could be ended merely by escaping. Only after digging up the relationships and secrets existing between them could he finally meet the end. Such a premonition came. Whether the end that approached that way would be the conclusion he desired was unknowable though. Chapter 29, Nuclear Tourism. Generally, they say that topics on the hypernet last for a week. No matter how big a topic that could burn everywhere, it meant that after roughly a week it would wither and ultimately disappear. This wasn't an exception even for the hack controversy that heated up all Reverse Planet communities. Now, a week after the clarification broadcast, the number of hack controversy-related posts going up to trending or featured posts had drastically decreased. It had reached a level where it was only occasionally mentioned. If something was added as firewood afterward, for example, starting a personal broadcast, the topic might have lasted longer, but since that didn't happen, it was a natural result. Thus, this hack controversy too seemed to end, leaving only one celebrity called a hack physical, like other controversies. So what's Hack Physical doing now? No talk of appearing on personal broadcasts. Looking at PvP match history doesn't seem to gain much either. Don't tell me it's really over like this. Probably. Seeing how he cut it off cleanly even during clarification broadcast, seems he has no particular interest in personal broadcasts. Author, why? Broadcasting would be a hit. How would I know? He's saying he won't. Nevertheless, some people desperately searched for news of Hack Physical's personal broadcast. Actually, it wasn't just some level. Posts asking about Hack Physical's current status or future whereabouts went up several times a day regardless of community. It was proof that what Hack Physical, Baek Woo-hyun, showed in just 2 broadcasts was that shocking. From before, broadcasts of Reverse Planet Amateur Masters had considerable demand. Because they were preferred in that they were relatively easier to access than pros and Q&A was easy. Unlike pros where build-related questions were completely prohibited. Anyway, if even regular amateur master broadcasts had considerable demand, what if it was a master misunderstood as a hacker from just 2 broadcasts? Praying for Hack Physical Broadcast Day 3. Please broadcast. Broadcast and release tips. Just watch Astra's broadcast fuck. Author, compare Astra to Hack Physical? This crossed the line. It's not that Astra is bad, but still Hack Physical is just different class. There wasn't even a reason to consider demand. Because there was no supply in the first place. Because all the truly skilled amateur masters went pro, this isn't saying the same thing. Just, literally there was no supply. Of a monster with skill enough to be misunderstood as a hack. Perhaps because of that, curiosity about Baek Woo-hyun continued to deepen even after the hack controversy topic died down. If nothing else, only a Hack Physical's vitality as a topic didn't die out, but rather kept being mentioned and revived. Strictly speaking, there were many reasons for that. Because research on Perfect Being was conducted, the No Assist No Guns challenge restarted, and even the Advanced Combat Bot challenge with just one core element overlapped. Especially the fact that 2 challenges became hit simultaneously was biggest. Because those who challenged what's called the Hack Physical challenge, bundling both together, kept mentioning that Hack Physical, Baek Woo-hyun, was truly insane. It means that as it was a challenge anyone could easily attempt, many tried and failed, causing attention to focus on Baek Woo-hyun, who could be called the source. Pros failing Hack Physical challenge in succession. No Assist No Guns challenge naturally failed. Even one core challenge all failed. Pro Parrot saying it can't be done by Pro Scatter. Just remember, Hack Physical's physicality is inhuman level. Obviously incomparable fuck at that point, it's just faith. There are more pro fanatics than expected. If pros could do it, why would they praise Hack Physical? Especially battler zealots are so disgusting. Hack Physical, who accomplished what even pros all fail is. Pros who challenged all said it too. How on earth did he do this? The hack controversy didn't happen for nothing. The flow intensified even more as pro players appeared among those who challenged and failed. Moreover, pro players unanimously said things like, "Bit surprising that someone who can do this exists," or "If you want to join a pro team, please contact us." There were also frequent stories about some pro teams' front office actually moving when demand for Baek Woo-hyun had accumulated tremendously like that. Breaking, Hack Physical appearing on personal broadcast. One post went up on the community containing content that Baek Woo-hyun would appear on a personal broadcast. What greeted those who entered thinking it was a typical phishing post was, surprisingly, proper content. Breaking, Hack Physical appearing on personal broadcast. August 2nd, 2041, 7 p.m. Nuclear tourism content will arrive. Cast, Hack Physical, CHA Seonkyul Jong Naeon. So it says. CHA Seonkyul is the Struggle League commentator you guys know, right? Jong Naeon seems like someone who does personal broadcasts but dunno who. Why is this real? Content name fuck. Nuclear tourism because Hack Physical. Nevada, USA comes to mind. What's that, otaku? Don't know Nevada nuclear test tourism? Praying for broadcast success. Acting like you did it for days. I did it for 3 days, you fucker. Jong Naeon does personal broadcasts, gets 1-200 listeners. Why that small timer when even 3K or tier Kang Soil? Well, I don't know. Why don't you know? Well, because I don't know. Hack Physical Baek Woo-hyun. Struggle League commentator CHA Seonkyul. And small timer Jong Naeon. The nuclear tourism content announced to proceed with 3 people who had no commonality caused considerable repercussions in various reverse planet communities. It was natural since it was as if declaring to appear on a personal broadcast, moreover with properly prepared content, amid already skyrocketing interest in Hack Physical day by day. Some with twisted disposition showed reaction saying they knew it about Baek Woo-hyun's broadcast appearance. Saying that since people praised Hack Physical, he ultimately decided to appear on personal broadcasts to earn money using that fame. However, such people's claims didn't particularly gain resonance, and the reason was simple. Why the logic of those bashing Hack Physical is funny. They say appearing on personal broadcast to earn money, but appearing on Kang Soil's broadcast would be way better for that. 3,000 vs 100 people, what more needs saying? Even adding CHO Seonkyul's viewers is 1,300. Better. Why can't better work? This is right, if Hack Physical was gonna broadcast for money, he'd just guest on Kang Soil's broadcast. Money-crazed parrots deserve punches to the philtrum tilde. Don't know why they treat someone earning money with their own ability as money-crazed in the first place. Even forced hate can't be done properly if intelligence drops. Obviously bastards who did hack parrot shit are fuming while forcing hate. Because Baek Woo-hyun had already abandoned Kang Soil's personal broadcast boasting 3,000 viewers. If he truly wanted to earn money through fame, appearing as a guest on Kang Soil's broadcast would be better. He'd actually received similar proposals from Kang Soil during broadcasts. At the point of rejecting that and choosing some small timer, according to somewhat harsh expression, broadcaster, he couldn't be called money-crazed. Because being called money-crazed yet deliberately choosing the side with less revenue didn't make sense. However, even those defending Hack Physical couldn't explain why he chose Jong Naeon and CHA Seonkyul. Why did he pick broadcasters at a combined 1,300 level while leaving medium-sized enterprise-level broadcaster Kang Soil with average 3,000 viewers? Of course, he'd simply chosen a broadcast that accommodated his convenience, but to others, this was a choice that couldn't be understood at all. As puzzlement accumulated, curiosity also grew, and this immediately changed into interest toward nuclear tourism content. Public opinion formed to at least watch what they do. It was exactly the result Jong Naeon had hoped for. *****. Turning back time somewhat. Shortly before the nuclear tourism content announcement went up as a trending post on communities. Who? Having successfully completed negotiations with Baek Woo-hyun, Jong Naeon moved without rest. Because she had to do so to surge forward, keeping the buzz alive. She judged that now when the hack controversy was hot was the period when she could best utilize Baek Woo-hyun's value, and intended absolutely not to miss this time. Of course, unlike expectations, interest in Hack Physical grew even more as time passed, but she couldn't foresee that much. Anyway, her movements to not miss this moment were very swift. She sent a proposal email to the first priority person among cast candidates immediately after parting with Baek Woo-hyun, and even set an appointment as soon as the other party accepted. Even that was the very next day. It was a passage showing how much she rushed. Well, this is thanks to the other party understanding we need to quickly continue before the buzz dies. Waiting briefly in the virtual reality waiting room. Jong Na-yeon, who pressed accept on the access request message, rose from her seat. It was to greet the person who would enter. And soon one person opened the door appearing from thin air and entered the waiting room. He was a man who seemed just in his mid-30s. He with impressive pupils sparkling with interest saw Jong Na-yeon and immediately offered greetings. Hello. You're Jong Na-yeon, right? Nice to meet you. I'm Cha Seong-kyeol. Yes, Cha Seong-kyeol. I'm Jong Na-yeon. The man, Cha Seong-kyeol, smiled and sat down. Likewise, as Jong Na-yeon also sat, he opened his mouth as if he'd been waiting. I have quite a straightforward personality, so I'll get right to the point. Is that okay? Yes, it's fine. I read the proposal Jong Na-yeon sent well. I'm thinking positively. However, for this proposal to happen, you must have first talked with Hack Physical. How is that part? Cha Seong-kyeol's doubt was extremely reasonable. Because outwardly in a situation where Jong Na-yeon and Hack Physical had no relationship, she'd sent a proposal asking wouldn't the three proceed with broadcast content. Rather, if Kang Soil had sent the proposal, he would have accepted without even having this meeting. Anyway, the two had even broadcast together. Of course, I've already talked with Woo-hyun. Hack Physical 2 first. I sent the proposal first. Were you acquainted from before? Yes. We're friends. Aha. Then it made sense that she arranged content with Hack Physical, who disappeared without a trace after the clarification broadcast. Because nothing is a stronger weapon than acquaintance. There's also the saying of school ties, regional ties, blood ties above all, isn't there? If you've already finished talking with Hack Physical 2, then I have no reason to hesitate either. Let's immediately set a date and proceed with advance notice. It was a refreshing acceptance. Enough to briefly fluster even Jong Na-yeon, who had been thinking to even connect a phone call to prove acquaintance with Baek Woo-hyun if need be. Watching Cha Seong-kyeol, who said he was fine anytime, so let's set a schedule first, Jong Na-yeon asked. Don't you need to verify directly? Why bother verifying? If it's a lie anyway, won't it all be revealed later? Because there can't be anyone who can imitate Hack Physical's physicality. Cha Seong-kyeol shrugged and continued. Besides, there's no particular reason for you to lie to me, Jong Na-yeon. Not only was there no reason for her to try deceiving him, but if it turned out to be a lie, it would be Jong Na-yeon herself who'd close her broadcast. At Cha Seong-kyeol's explanation, Jong Na-yeon also couldn't help but nod. Because it was certainly as he said. Afterward, the two had various conversations about the content the three would proceed with. Basically from schedule coordination to how to proceed, though it was somewhat drinking Kim Kai soup, even about if the content became a hit. Naturally, talk also came up about what to name the content. The content's name is very important. It's essentially like a person's first impression. Cha Seong-kyeol spoke in a serious tone. It must concisely contain the content's substance while being witty. That way, won't people want to watch just seeing the name? That's right. In that sense, how about nuclear tourism? Yes? Nuclear tourism. Isn't it good? Clear, tourism. It's a format watching Hack Physical, so isn't there no better name than this as the content name? If it really won't work, another name related to nuclear. Nuclear tourism. Let's go with nuclear tourism. The nuclear tourism content began like this. Chapter 30, Proper Start. The day of the first Hack Tour content broadcast. Even though there was still some time left before the start, Jong Na-yeon and Cha Seong-kyeol had already gathered. Unlike Baek Woo-hyun, who literally just had to play the game, they needed to not only communicate with viewers but also look after various matters. They had to adjust broadcast settings one last time and also talk with the broadcast camera operator who existed due to the nature of the broadcast format. It meant it was somewhat inevitable that the two gathered first. However, that didn't mean Baek Woo-hyun didn't come. He had also gathered around the same time. He just wasn't visible because he was in Reverse Planet, not here. By the way, will it really be okay? Who? What will? In the midst of moving busily, at Cha Seong-kyul's sudden words, Jong Na-yeon asked back. Hack Physical said whatever conversation we have here is fine, but we really can't do that. We should appropriately be careful. Ah, that. Jong Na-yeon chuckled. She understood Cha Seong-kyul's worry. She caught on to what he meant too. But because she was someone with long friendship with Baek Woo-hyun, she also knew that worry was ultimately meaningless. She spoke towards Cha Seong-kyul with an expression of needless worry. I'm not joking, you really don't need to worry. To put it bluntly, that guy Woo-hyun wouldn't even care what we say here. Is that so? Unless we curse his parents or something, but you're not going to do that, right? That's right. There's no way I would. Ha ha. Cha Seong-kyul, who burst into laughter at Jong Na-yeon's joke, added he must originally have that kind of personality. Hearing those words, Jong Na-yeon's expression became awkward. Originally that kind of personality. Thinking as a friend who had spent quite a long time together, Baek Woo-hyun wasn't originally that kind of personality. Of course, it was true he had a tendency to be somewhat indifferent to other people's opinions. But he didn't regard them as worthless to this degree. He was just at the level of not accepting other people's opinions on things he'd sincerely resolved to do, not to the extent of not having even a trace of interest in people talking about him like now. Until recently, it had certainly been that way. What on earth happened for him to change like that? It wasn't simply talking about personality change. That he became tremendously good at games enough to be misunderstood as a hacker, and also changed considerably in appearance. Actually, in the latter case, Jong Na-yeon was secretly satisfied. What had happened to Baek Woo-hyun to have such tremendous change was still a mystery. She could only wait, thinking he'd tell her when the time came. It's about time. As they prepared while having various conversations like that, before they knew it all the remaining leisure had disappeared, and the start time had approached. Having finished preparations, Jong Na-yeon and Cha Seong-kyul sat in chairs set up inside the studio and properly started the broadcast. After pressing the broadcast start button, they watched viewers pouring in from the waiting screen. Oh, door opened. Finally, at last. Look at how fast viewer count rises. Was just waiting for the notification. If Hack Physical isn't here after this, it'd really be trouble. Perhaps thanks to announcing the broadcast in advance. In less than just a few minutes, the viewer count broke through 2,000. It wasn't even stopping there but kept steadily increasing. Considering the fact that this Hack Tour content was essentially content relying on Hack Physical, Baek Woo-hyun's buzz, all of them coming to see him was basically the same. Indirectly proving he alone had the power to draw thousands of viewers. Of course, about 1,300 of them were viewers who originally watched Jong Na-yeon and Cha Seong-kyul, but even excluding that, it was undeniable it was a tremendous number. However, as time passed, the momentum of viewers entering clearly weakened. In any case, since the hack controversy was close to a past topic, they couldn't expect the same power as the clarification broadcast that had gathered tens of thousands with one broadcast. Moreover, the clarification broadcast was close to a cheat key from the start, so it was natural. Because it was a combination of hack controversy plus an operator. Still, this much is sufficiently beyond expectations. Jong Na-yeon, who grinned and looked at Cha Seong-kyul, noticed he was also thinking the same. She dare assert the Hack Tour content had considerable potential. The kind of potential that could make those two people into major corporations. Nod. After looking at each other and bobbing heads, they switched the broadcast screen. From the waiting screen to the studio where the two people were. Jong Ha-tilde hello everyone. I'm Jong Na-yeon. Nice to meet you, viewers. I'm Cha Seong-kyul. What? Why two people? Where's Hack Physical? Fuck, I knew it, scammed again. I caught on it was a lie when Kang Soil wasn't there. LOL, there are kids who fell for this. LOL. At the sight of only Jong Na-yeon and Cha Seong-kyul, viewers immediately vomited anger, asking if they lied. Already opinions had been divided over whether Hack Physical would appear or if it was just aggro, and the broadcast started yet there were only two people, so it was understandable. Several impatient viewers even spewed profanities, but Jong Naeon and Cho Seonkyul didn't care. Because they'd been aiming for this reaction from the start. How could they not know what viewers would say if shown a studio without Baek Woo-hyun? Of course they knew. Also that several quick-tempered ones would spew profanities. Since they too were personal broadcasters who had broadcast for quite a long time, it was natural. Yet they deliberately showed the studio with only 2 people first for reversal effect. Because showing it when people think you're just talking without him would allow starting content more effectively than just showing him blankly. Don't be too hasty, everyone. You should at least hear the story. Jong Naeon continued speaking while gently soothing viewers. To know why Hack Physical isn't here now, you first need to know his personality. Let's hear it. What excuse are you making? Just shut up and listen. He originally dislikes bothersome things and doesn't like noisy chattering either. He doesn't particularly want attention from people. To be clear, she shrugged, saying it wasn't a personality suited for personal broadcasting. Some might say, what are you talking about? He appeared on the clarification broadcast, but I'll clearly tell you using this opportunity. If I hadn't persuaded him, he probably wouldn't have appeared. Jong Naeon wasn't making up nonsense. Actually, even after Baek Woo-hyun learned about the controversy surrounding him, he had thought, do I need to deal with this? Later Kang Soil's invitation would have come, so he wouldn't have been completely unaware of the controversy, but still, he clearly wouldn't have thought he needed to appear on a clarification broadcast to clear his false accusation. The probability was high he would have ignored it, reasoning that since he was just playing games alone anyway, whatever anyone said had nothing to do with him. In the first place, until I contacted him, he didn't even know a hack controversy happened because of him. To him it was too natural a thing to think it would become a controversy. I think it's absurd that even something like this becomes a controversy. Why is it a controversy? To me it's natural. Controversy because physicality is too amazing. Thinking about it now, it is funny lololol. Then Jong Naeon Sai, you're essentially one of the 2 people who revealed Hack Physical to the world. Yes, something like that. At Cha Seonkyul's words chiming in from the side, Jong Naeon nodded. The other person was naturally Kang Soil. If he hadn't been accidentally caught on her broadcast, Baek Woo-hyun would still be unknown. Of course, an all in a pocket is bound to pop out someday, and Baek Woo-hyun would have too, so him being revealed was a matter of time, but anyway. Leader donated a 1001. So where exactly is Hack Physical? As I mentioned earlier, he's not here. Because he's quite shy. Then what exactly are you trying to do? How long will you hide him? If not here, is he somewhere else? That's right. He's not here, but somewhere else. Jong Naeon grinned and clapped her hands. Then the neatly decorated studio changed, and a forest filled with dense trees appeared. Along with Baek Woo-hyun standing alone blankly. It's Hack Physical. He was inside Repla. Kick out all those who said aggro. In the midst of it he spins the dagger so well. Although Baek Woo-hyun wore a mask due to personal information mode, since the shape was identical plus his unique atmosphere was added, viewers quickly recognized him. Several who were uncertain were quickly swept along since many viewers insisted it was Hack Physical. As Hack Physical, Baek Woo-hyun directly revealed himself like that, claims that it was just aggro lost power and died down. In a situation where Baek Woo-hyun was right before their eyes, claiming they lied when he wasn't there would only become stupid talk, so it was natural. Swish swish. Baek Woo-hyun in the forest was spending time spinning a military knife round and round in his hand, and that appearance looked extremely skilled. No, it was beyond skill to the point of being amazing. Because the military dagger was wriggling as if alive, trying to escape his grip. Not only viewers, but even Jong Naeon and Cho Seonkyul, who should be conducting the broadcast, looked at the military knife as if in trance for a moment, which said it all. Oh, this isn't the time for this. Jong Naeon came to her senses around when Baek Woo-hyun properly gripped the military dagger. She opened her mouth as if nothing happened. What do you think people were most curious about after Hack Physical appeared? What do you think, Seonkyul-nim? In my opinion, I think people would be most curious how someone with this monster-like physicality plays the reverse planet. Right. I am curious. Seems like he'd be playing a different game from me. Showing impossible difficulty. Hack Tour content is content prepared to answer exactly that question. However, just ending there would be no different from other personal broadcasts. since broadcaster playing games and viewers watching is the same for any personal broadcast. To differentiate from this, and to comply with Baek Woo-hyun's demands, Jong Na-yeon brought the observational variety format. Actually, the latter reason was biggest, but anyway. Let's calmly observe Hack Physical's Reverse Planets with commentary from commentator Cho Seong-kyul here. I look forward to working with you, everyone. So that's why. I get why they were separate from Hack Physical. Observational variety on personal broadcast. That's why they brought in commentary. Cho Seong-kyul, who naturally chimed in, bowed his head toward the camera. Only then did viewers seem to realize Hack Tour content followed observational variety format. Even though it was a format hard to easily see in personal broadcasts, there seemed to be few who felt it unfamiliar. That made sense, because observational variety reigned so mainstream in Korean variety that the arrangement dividing studio and broadcast content was familiar and easy to accept. Alright. Then shall we properly start now? Jong Na-yeon, who had been checking chat window public opinion, smiled brightly and said, "It was the proper start of a Hack Tour content.